Dickie Dread, New Age Travellers, A History, 1960 to 1990. Chapter 6, The Aftermath. Recovering Homes. After the Battle of the Beanfield, one of the most punishing and protracted struggles faced by the travellers was not just physical injury or legal defence, but the fight to reclaim their vehicles and possessions. For many, everything they owned was in those buses, trucks and vans. In the immediate aftermath of the Beanfield raid, over 100 live-in or black vehicles were seized by police. Many were towed away or driven by officers to impound sites, some to military land or council yards. No inventory was taken at the time. People's birth certificates, kids' clothes, medicines, instruments, journals, pets and livelihoods were all inside. For some, their vehicles was also their home, job, bank, identity and community centre, all rolled into one. Getting vehicle backs was incredibly difficult. Owners were required to prove ownership, despite many living informal lives without standard registration or paperwork. Some were told they had to pay towing and storage fees, sometimes hundreds of pounds, to recover their homes. Others were simply refused access with vague explanations, under investigation, or not safe for release. One woman, who'd lived in her bus for 6 years, said, "I gave them my licence and logbook. They told me they'd lost my file." When some vehicles were returned, weeks or months later, they were wrecked. Windows smashed, interiors gutted, clothing, food and cash missing. In some cases, engines were deliberately damaged or batteries removed. There were widespread claims of officers looting vehicles, though this was never formally acknowledged. Tools, instruments, even children's toys were reportedly gone. One man, after finally retrieving his Bedford van, said, "They turned my life into rubble, then handed it back in pieces." For many months passed before they even knew where their vehicles had been taken. Police gave conflicting answers or directed people between departments. Some were told their van had been disposed of and no record of when and or why. At least a dozen vehicles were never returned at all. Support networks like the Festival Welfare Service, Green Collective and Alternative Press tried to track vehicles and pressure authorities. Public fundraising campaigns were launched to help cover storage costs, legal aid and vehicle repairs. Solicitors like Mark Schwartz and grassroots legal networks began compiling affidavits and complaints on behalf of travellers. These support systems became crucial, not just for recovery, but for mental survival. The treatment of vehicles became emblematic of the wider repression, a deliberate breaking of lives and continuity, an attempt to destroy not just a protest but a mobile culture that refused fixed addresses, wage slavery and conformity. As one convoy member put it, they didn't just steal our stuff, they tried to erase us. But the cracks appeared quickly. Over the following weeks, letters pages in The Observer, The Guardian and Independent were flooded with protest. Alternative publications like Peace News, Green, Anarchist and Festival Eye published detailed eyewitness reports and photographs. Some BBC radio segments began cautiously raising the issue, though major television outlets stayed largely mute. Mainstream media had largely failed, but the underground press was burning with fury. Out of the 537 arrests, fewer than 30 people were charged with any offence, and most were minor: obstruction, trespass, breach of the peace. Many charges were later dropped, but the travellers fought back. A group of 24 claimants brought civil suits against Wiltshire police. The case dragged through the courts for years, hampered by missing evidence, police denial and a lack of political will. Note that the case was heard by a judge alone, without a jury. This was a deliberate legal manoeuvre. Wiltshire police argued that media coverage and public opinion made a fair jury trial impossible, citing potential bias. The judge, Justice French, allowed the trial to proceed in this restricted format. This decision was controversial. Many activists and legal observers saw it as a way to shield police actions from public scrutiny, especially since key evidence included lost or withheld police video footage, which was never presented. Now, I did say in the prelude that I would not try to express my own opinion, but how fucking bent is a system where the abuser gets the option not to be put in front of a jury because of media bias, which almost all derogatory of the abused? That's not law, that's just fucking wrong on so many levels. This took some research, but over the years, a small number of coppers involved in the Battle of the Beanfield have expressed regret, discomfort or criticism of the operation, though official admissions of guilt are rare. During subsequent legal proceedings, some officers admitted that instructions were vague and that the violence was excessive, though some such statements were usually made under cross-examination did not constitute open admissions of shame. In documentaries such as Operation Solstice 2005, some officers appeared anonymously and stated that the tactics used were over the top and that they were ashamed of what had occurred. These accounts, while powerful, lack full names due to legal employment concerns. While there is no public apology from a serving high-ranking officer, there are multiple accounts from eyewitnesses, some officers and legal findings that reflect internal unease, regret and condemnation of the Beanfield tactics. The incident remains one of the most controversial public order operations in UK history. In 1991, 6 years after the event, 14 travellers were awarded damages, but the police admitted no wrongdoing. The payout was meagre, but the judgment set an important precedent. Babylon could be challenged, even if the justice came too slow. The Beanfield became a rallying cry. In squats across Britain, benefit gigs were held to raise money for legal costs. Flyers circulated in punk venues and at alternative fairs. They came for the travellers. Who's next? Groups like Alarm UK, Green C&D and Festival Welfare Services began to share resources and intelligence. The narco-punk scene, still thriving through bands like Conflict, Chumbawamba and Subhumans, took up the issue in lyrics, posters and public statements. Battlefield Britain was graffitied on walls from Bristol to Deptford.